Hi everyone, Nikki here, back with a brand new video. I am an INTJ who speaks about whatever I want to speak about from the perspective of being an INTJ. And yes, I have read about cognitive functions. Yes, I do know about them. Yes, I extensively researched them and also researched what a personality type meant before I felt comfortable with declaring myself an INTJ, and especially before I felt comfortable creating a YouTube channel where I mostly talk about INTJ related things. I also never felt the need to state this, but I'm not a teenager. I am a woman in my 30s. So, let's move into the video. So it's been a long time since I've made love-related videos. I don't really have too much to say on that topic, and if that isn't an INTJ thing to say, I don't know what is. I guess I can bring some more perspective into dismantling the idea that INTJs are romantically clueless. This drives me insane. Are you talking about teenage INTJs? Because I think teenagers in general are romantically clueless. But in regards to myself, since I cannot speak for all INTJs, I'm not a spokesperson, and also every single INTJ are going to come from different backgrounds. They're going to have different attachment styles, different sexualities, different cultures. We're all different. No INTJ will be a carbon copy of the other. So let's just go ahead and erase that narrative right now that if I have a different opinion or I appear different from another INTJ or your idea of an INTJ, therefore I must not be one. But one thing that I see that's really common is INTJs are romantically clueless. I think I even have an old video titled that because of an article I saw. So if you wanted to type that into Google, you could probably find that article. And the thing about the INTJ personality type is, for example, we're most often misunderstood. The INFP personality type is declared as the most misunderstood, but INTJs are argumentatively just as misunderstood, one of the most misunderstood, and it mostly just has to do with the way that we think and interact with things and the fact that all of it is in here. And all you see is us taking action after we've already declared the path we are going to pick, and we have not included you or anyone else. And that can come across as a little arrogant. But unlike INFPs, an INTJ does not care to be misunderstood, to be understood. Maybe in the young years, for example, when I was younger, which I've talked about this, and that's what has made people say I'm not an INTJ, because apparently a 10-year-old child dealing with the things I dealt with and having emotions just means I'm not an INTJ. I don't know. But an INTJ at some point might care, and then they grow up and we embrace who we are and how we think and how we operate, regardless of if we are aware that we fall within the INTJ category. An INTJ is still an INTJ, even if they think they're an ENFP, even if they don't even know what Myers-Briggs 16 personalities is, they're still an INTJ. INTJs just don't care about things. We're super observant, but what do we do with what we observe? We just observe it and then dismiss it as not important if we declare it as not important. And one of the things we could easily dismiss is romance. And I don't mean romance in general, and there's plenty of INTJs out there, myself included, who don't think of romance and relationships as some sort of unnecessary, stupid, superficial thing. It can be, and I've witnessed it as that, but it's whatever I make it and whatever I want it to be. And I don't view romance in that light. I would never be in a romantic relationship like that in the first place. So it's not that INTJs as a whole, the personality type as a whole, just completely don't understand romance, completely dismiss it, completely think it's just some stupid nonsense. That's not the case. From my perspective of being an INTJ, I can say what most likely is happening within this personality type is we are noticing, we see it, we dismiss it. especially if it's something in the workplace, a place most of us don't actually want to be. We would much rather be working for ourselves at home, keep the human interaction at a very bare minimum. And with the way society is, there's a lot of social interactions. And if you're a INTJ female like myself, or you're dealing with an INTJ female, or just someone very similar, there's a certain pressure, depending on where you are in the world, where your gender gets you attention you don't want to have, or can put you in the types of jobs and the types of roles you don't want to be in because they want an attractive plant for the people to look at. And it's draining. It's draining being a thing for people to look at, especially for our INTJ, where we are always thinking about the deeper meaning of things, the symbolism of things. INTJs are creatives. It doesn't matter if you are an INTJ who leans more towards science, black holes, quantum physics, or if you're an INTJ like myself, where you like to daydream and write stories and read fictional books and try to bridge that gap between me and people I don't understand. And if I don't understand them, they definitely will not be able to understand me because I can't help them understand me. Do you see what I mean? Everything with an INTJ, like, it's not here. Like, it can't just be surface level. It's always so much deeper than that. But all anyone ever sees is that extroverted thinking, that auxiliary function. That's all anyone ever sees because that's all an INTJ will show. Even me, with these YouTube videos, I'm letting you into my brain and my thought processes during some dark times of my life, and I'm being vulnerable with you in a way that an INTJ in the workplace or your best friend INTJ or whomever else might not do for one reason or another. It's kind of difficult to take what's in here and put it in a language other people can understand. And that does include an INTJ talking to an INTJ. One of my best friends is an ISTJ, and we understand each other and we get along. But when we run into conflict is when I'm already 5 steps ahead and my friend is still on the now, still thinking about right now. I've already solved it in my head, and I've solved the problem after that, and I've solved the problem after that, and now I have all of these variables that I'm waiting to see which one I need to pick from depending on how things are going to unfold, because it's completely impossible to predict what humans will do. This is how an INTJ thinks. It is exhausting when people have crushes on me. It is so exhausting because they don't tell me. They don't come to me and tell me, because it's also human nature to be afraid of rejection. You want to know who won't be afraid of rejection? Most likely an INTJ. Will some INTJs be afraid of rejection? Absolutely. A lot of them that have that sort of mindset have been rejected a lot or have never had romantic interests, and they never developed that. But a romantically healthy INTJ, or an INTJ who's been through extensive therapy like myself, will definitely notice it and see it. And I have a hard time believing that my fellow INTJs do not notice things when our brains are constantly computing and downloading information from everybody and everything at all times. Always looking for patterns. You mean to tell me that if I'm walking into the office, that the person who sits over here in the second cubicle behind the tall guy who always has his boots on the desk and next to the girl that plays gospel music, that I won't realize every time I walk into the office that that individual in that particular area watches me walk the whole time? You mean to tell me an INTJ wouldn't notice that if it's a reoccurring pattern? You think, oh, well, it's so subtle, it's so small, and, INTJs, they don't really pick up details. They're such big picture oriented thinkers. And you could be right. It might take some INTJs more time to notice than other INTJs. An INTJ might be more likely to notice like in the scenario that I described, when there's something loud and destructive and irritating in that particular area. And the INTJ will be aware of that area, which means they're more likely to be aware of the person that watches them walk. But if you're hiding inside of a bush and you're really tucked out of the way, like you might as well not even exist. You never talk to the INTJ. You're never in the same room as the INTJ. You don't do anything that could potentially draw their attention. Sure, you might get away with it, but that just sounds bonkers. So with me being an INTJ, since I can only really speak for myself, it's annoying and it's irritating. This fear of rejection, of I can't be myself when I'm with you because I'm intimidated by you, or I can't be myself with you because I want to show you the best side of me. That means I have to disguise all the parts I don't like or all the parts I think you won't like. And I'm thinking I can outsmart you and get away with it and that you won't notice. This is how I think of that. I think of that as trickery, of you are trying to outsmart me by hiding the fact that you have jealousy tendencies when I've witnessed you glaring at a coworker that I was talking to. This is all hypothetical, by the way. But using my past experiences in workplaces and with old friends and things like that, that's pretty much how it's gone down. It's me draining myself and getting frustrated with individuals because I can clearly see that they are into me and they're not doing anything about it. So if there could have been any potential chance that I might have been interested in them, it's sort of like it was ruined before it could even begin. It's human nature to want to put your best foot forward, to want to avoid being rejected and get your feelings hurt. But if you're dealing with an INTJ, I'm sorry, but that's just not the way to go about it. We're gonna notice eventually. And by the time we notice, we might be so fed up that we've already declared you no option, like not an option, don't pass go, can't plan a future with you, can't even see a future with you because we don't even know who you are, because we're exhausted from having to play detective to figure out why in the hell does this coworker keep looking at me every single morning, every time I walk by? And why do they all of a sudden start taking lunch the same time I'm in the break room, when they did not take lunch at the same time? And why do they always seem to park near my car? And why are they now walking out at 4:30 instead of 5 o'clock? When I don't recall ever seeing them walk out the door with me. This is bizarre. I've literally have had this happen. And it was all methods that people use to get to know other people, to get closer to other people and make it natural. But it's not natural to an INTJ who's going to pay attention and notice that there's a shift in that pattern. There's something bizarre here, there's something odd here. We see it, we know it, we don't like it. I stand by my opinion that INTJs are not romantically clueless. And there's going to be someone in the comments, because in my Romantically Clueless video, I saw in the comments where the sentiment was basically, you missed the point, and you're proving the point, I am, that INTJs are in fact romantically clueless. But romance is different for everybody. So who are you or anyone else or society to declare what romance is and how people want to be pursued and what kind of relationship people want to have? And an INTJ does not need validation from others or from society. We'd much rather be alone. Most INTJs would much rather just be alone. That's way less draining emotionally than having to play detective and be Sherlock Holmes to figure out, what is someone thinking? What is someone feeling? Who is this person? What does this person want in a partner? Where does this person see themselves in 5 years? Why is this person everywhere I show up? Why is this person only telling me things that they think I want to hear? Like, just because I have a graveyard on my arm and I wear black does not mean that I believe in witchcraft. So, when you're dealing with an INTJ, be yourself and treat them as a person, but also keep in mind that an INTJ will tell you the truth. Most INTJs, I'm speaking generally, okay? But most INTJs see it as a kindness when they look at you and say, I'm not interested. It is not a, you are lacking something. It is not a, there's something wrong with you. It is not a, you are not good enough for me. There's none of that. It's a, I see you and I know myself and I'm not interested in you romantically. I would much rather tell you now. So all the feelings that you are harboring and all the staring you're doing at me from across the room can stop, be dealt with, and you can direct your attention to someone who feels the same way, because that's what people deserve. We all deserve to be with people who want to be with us. An INTJ gets a bad rap because they are that person in the room who is not afraid to stand up and say, hey, I don't like this, I don't agree with this, I think this is inefficient, and I don't like you romantically. An INTJ, even if they say things that are just straight up, I don't like you, we're aware of how that could potentially make someone feel. Mostly. But anyway, quick summary. Don't take it personally if an INTJ rejects you. Understand that it's actually an act of kindness, because we don't want you obsessing over someone who does not return those feelings and idealizing and dreaming about someone who does not return those feelings, because people deserve to be with people who want to also be with them. And that's just the lowest, if you ask me, that's the lowest standard everybody should have. Don't waste your time with someone who doesn't want to be with you and who doesn't fulfill your needs. So if you know an INTJ, you're interested in an INTJ, you've dealt with an INTJ, and they sucked at texting you back, they never wanted to talk to you, they never wanted to hang out with you, they seemed very avoidant, don't classify that as all of INTJs, because a emotionally healthy INTJ who is interested in you will do their best, but at the same time, also understand that that is a little bit against our nature to text back immediately when you text us, because there is no telling what project we've spent 5 hours engrossed in, not paying attention to our phone. So anyway, this is just a little bit of a rant, sort of just reaffirming my stance that INTJs are not romantically clueless, that we are very much aware that people have interest in us, and when they have interest in us, that all you see is our auxiliary function, that external thinking, but the internal intuition, our dominant function, okay? You don't see that, so you don't get to see everything happening down below. So just keep that in mind when you're dealing with an INTJ, which of whom you are romantically interested in. Thanks. Bye, guys.